John stood on the precipice of humanity's greatest achievement, Project Ascend. As a brilliant scientist and the project's lead, he had spent years working on transcending human limitations. The culmination of this work was now before him, a sleek, futuristic chamber designed to transform a human into a godlike being. John knew that stepping into that chamber would forever change his life. The moment was surreal. John's colleagues, friends, and even some family members gathered around, their faces a mixture of awe, excitement, and apprehension. Dr. Elena Vasquez, his closest friend and confidant, gave him a reassuring nod. "Are you sure about this, John?" Elena asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Once you step in, there's no going back." John took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the room one last time. "I'm sure, Elena. This is what we've been working for. This is the next step for humanity." With that, John stepped into the chamber. The door sealed shut with a soft hiss, and the room outside went silent. He felt a surge of energy envelop him, a sensation so intense it was almost overwhelming. His body began to change, becoming something beyond human. His senses expanded, and he could feel every particle in the air, every heartbeat in the room. When the transformation was complete, the chamber door opened, and John emerged, no longer a mere human, but something infinitely more. The room erupted in applause, but John felt a pang of isolation. The people before him were now as distant as ants. He smiled, masking his newfound loneliness. Days turned into weeks, and John struggled to adjust to his new reality. His powers were beyond anything he had imagined. He could manipulate matter, traverse vast distances in an instant, and even glimpse into the future. But with these abilities came an overwhelming sense of responsibility and a growing disconnect from the people he once held dear. One evening, John found himself alone in his expansive futuristic home. He looked out over the city, his mind racing with thoughts of the past and future. A holographic message from Elena appeared before him. "Hey, John," Elena's image said softly. "We miss you. It's been weeks since you visited the lab. Everyone's worried about you." John sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm fine, Elena. It's just different now. Everything feels different." Elena's hologram flickered, her eyes filled with concern. "You don't have to do this alone, you know. We're here for you." John nodded, but deep down, he knew that his journey was one he had to face on his own. The weight of godhood was a burden only he could bear. As he closed the message, he resolved to find a way to bridge the gap between his new existence and the world he once knew. The next day, John decided to visit the lab. As he walked through the familiar halls, he could feel the stares of his colleagues. They revered him, but there was an undercurrent of fear. He approached Elena, who was busy working on a new project. "Hey," John said, his voice carrying a resonance that was almost otherworldly. Elena looked up, a smile breaking across her face. "John, it's good to see you." He nodded, trying to smile back. "I needed to see everyone, to remind myself of where I came from." As they talked, John realized that maintaining his humanity would be his greatest challenge. The power he now possessed was immense, but it came at the cost of the very connections that made him who he was. He vowed to find a balance, to use his abilities to help humanity without losing himself in the process. As John adjusted to his new powers, he was quickly called upon to mediate conflicts among other ascended beings. The gods, as they were now called, were far from perfect. They often engaged in petty squabbles and power struggles, each trying to assert their dominance. John's idealistic vision of harmony among the ascended was shattered as he witnessed these disputes firsthand. One particularly heated debate erupted between two gods, Leora and Thane, over the control of a newly discovered energy source. Their argument grew so intense that it threatened to tear apart the delicate balance John was trying to maintain. "Thane, you know that source is too volatile to be monopolized." Leora shouted, her eyes blazing with fury. Thane smirked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "And you think you're the best person to handle it, Leora? Your track record isn't exactly spotless." John intervened, his voice calm but commanding. "Enough. This isn't about personal gain. We need to focus on what's best for everyone, not just our egos." Both gods fell silent, though their glares spoke volumes. John knew he had only temporarily quelled their argument. Resolving these conflicts was going to be a continuous struggle. Elena had been following these developments closely, offering her insights whenever possible. During one of their late-night discussions, she voiced her concerns. "John, this is getting out of hand. The gods are acting more like children than leaders. How do you plan to keep them in check?" John sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm still figuring that out. The power has amplified their worst traits. We need a way to remind them of their responsibilities." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe we should look into creating a council of sorts, a governing body to mediate disputes and make decisions collectively." John considered this. A council could work, but it would need to be fair and balanced. We can't let any one individual have too much control. Over the next few weeks, John and Elena worked tirelessly to establish the council. They selected representatives based on wisdom, fairness, and a commitment to the greater good. Among them were Zara, who had become a strong ally, and Amir, John's mentor. The first council meeting was tense. The gods were wary of each other, their distrust palpable. John opened the session, emphasizing the importance of unity and cooperation. "We are here to ensure that our powers are used responsibly," John began. "This council is a step towards creating a stable and harmonious existence for both us and humanity." As the days passed, the council started to make progress. Conflicts were mediated more effectively, and a sense of order began to emerge. However, John knew that this was just the beginning. The true test of their resolve was yet to come. Despite the council's efforts, tensions simmered beneath the surface. John remained vigilant, aware that any slip could lead to chaos. He continued to grapple with his role, striving to balance his godlike abilities with the humanity that kept him grounded. In quiet moments, John often found himself reflecting on the weight of his responsibilities. The burden of godhood was heavy, but he was determined to carry it with integrity and compassion. For the sake of humanity and the future of the Ascended, he had to succeed. John's newfound equilibrium was short-lived. The council had brought a semblance of order, but not all were satisfied with the new status quo. In the shadows, a rogue god named Valkyr schemed. Envious of John's influence and rapid rise, Valkyr believed that the Ascended should rule over humanity, not serve it. It started with subtle disruptions, minor sabotage at key facilities, whispers of dissent among the gods. John, with his heightened senses, quickly realized something was amiss. He intensified his efforts to maintain unity within the council, but the seeds of discord had already been sown. One evening, as John reviewed reports in his study, a sudden explosion rocked the building. He rushed to the source to find the lab in ruins. Among the debris, he found a chilling message scrawled in the air with energy. "Power belongs to the strong. Valkyr." John called an emergency council meeting. The atmosphere was tense as he addressed the gathered gods. "Valkyr has made his move. We must stand together, or everything we've built will fall apart." Zara, always the pragmatist, spoke up. "We need to act swiftly. Valkyr is dangerous, and his influence is growing. If we don't stop him now, we risk an all-out war." Amir, John's mentor, nodded in agreement. "But we must be careful. Valkyr is not only powerful but cunning. We need a strategy that minimizes collateral damage." John agreed and devised a plan to counter Valkyr's influence while avoiding a direct confrontation. They would cut off his resources, isolate his supporters, and expose his actions to the public to undermine his authority. Despite their efforts, Valkyr was always one step ahead. He exploited the Council's caution, orchestrating attacks that were increasingly bold and destructive. The Council's unity began to fray under the pressure. In a bold move, Valkyr challenged John directly, demanding a confrontation. "Face me, John, or admit to the world that you are too weak to lead," his message proclaimed. John knew he had no choice. The time for subtlety was over. He accepted the challenge and arranged to meet Valkyr in a remote area, away from innocent lives. The confrontation was fierce. Valkyr unleashed his full power, his attacks brutal and relentless. John countered with a calm, focused strength, using his abilities to protect and deflect rather than destroy. The battle raged on, their clashing energies lighting up the sky. As they fought, John realized that defeating Valkyr through sheer force would only validate his belief in might over right. He needed to show that true strength lay in restraint and wisdom. Drawing on everything he had learned, John created a powerful containment field, trapping Valkyr without causing him harm. "Your thirst for power blinds you, Valkyr," John said, his voice steady. "We are here to protect and guide, not to dominate. The real strength lies in serving others, not in ruling them." Valkyr, though trapped, glared at John with defiant eyes. "This isn't over, John. There are others who think like me. You can't contain us all." John nodded, acknowledging the truth in Valkyr's words. "Perhaps not, but we can set an example. Together we can build a future where our powers are used for the greater good, not personal gain." As Valkyr was taken away, the council reconvened. John stood before them, weary but resolute. "We have a long road ahead, but we must remain united. Only then can we ensure a future where both humanity and the Ascended can thrive." The council members, inspired by John's leadership, pledged their support. John knew that the battle for harmony was far from over, but with his allies by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the wake of Valkyr's defeat, John hoped for a period of calm, but the aftermath was anything but peaceful. Rumors spread about the true cost of ascension, whispering of a hidden price paid by humanity. Troubling reports surfaced. The ascension process was causing widespread instability in the human world, manifesting as natural disasters and unexplained phenomena. John, burdened by the potential truth, delved into the origins of Project Ascend. He spent days combing through ancient texts and research logs, uncovering a chilling revelation. The energy required for ascension was siphoned directly from the Earth's core, destabilizing the planet itself. The very process that had elevated him and the others to godhood was now threatening the existence of humanity. Elena, his steadfast ally, was horrified by the findings. "John, this is catastrophic. If we continue, we could destroy the world we swore to protect." John's heart sank. "We need to stop this. But reversing the process could be just as dangerous. We have to find a way to mitigate the damage." They gathered the council to discuss the grim discovery. The reactions were mixed: shock, denial, and fear. Zara, always the voice of reason, pushed for immediate action. "We can't ignore this. We have a responsibility to fix what we've broken." Amir, though pained, supported her. "We need to make sacrifices if necessary. Our powers were meant to protect, not destroy." John proposed a daring plan, a collective effort to stabilize the Earth's core by channeling their combined energies into reinforcing it, even if it meant relinquishing some of their powers. The council reluctantly agreed, understanding the gravity of the situation. As they prepared, John felt a mix of resolve and sorrow. He knew that this could mean the end of their godlike existence, but the survival of humanity was paramount. Elena stood by his side, her presence a source of strength. The day of the great effort arrived. The Ascended gathered at a remote site, their powers focused on a single goal. John led the effort, his energy intertwining with the others, creating a massive, stabilizing force. The ground trembled as their energies surged into the earth, mending the damage caused by their ascensions. The process was draining. John could feel his powers waning, but he pushed on, driven by the determination to save the world. As the last of their energies settled, the earth grew still, the tremors ceased, and a profound silence followed. The Ascended stood together, visibly weakened but unified. John looked around, seeing the exhaustion in their eyes but also a shared sense of accomplishment. They had done it. The planet was stable once more. In the aftermath, the Ascended beings found themselves significantly diminished, their godlike powers now just a fraction of what they once were. John, though no longer a god in the truest sense, felt a deep sense of peace. They had preserved humanity, and in doing so, rediscovered their own. Elena approached him, her eyes reflecting both relief and admiration. "We did it, John. We really did it." John nodded, a weary but genuine smile on his face. "We did. And now, we must guide humanity with the wisdom we've gained, not as gods, but as stewards." As they returned to their roles, no longer as omnipotent beings, but as protectors and leaders, John felt a renewed purpose. The journey had changed them all, teaching them that true godhood wasn't about power, but about the willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. And so, they began the next chapter, not as gods above men, but as part of humanity, committed to building a future where both could thrive together. Thanks for watching this sci-fi story. Subscribe to watch more amazing sci-fi stories and turning on notifications.